Alright, so I'd like to show you how we can create our first schema. And this is the project that we have been working in. I'd like to separate our schema out into another file. So I'll show you the recommended way to do that. So we have all of our logic here and our endpoints. Eventually I'd like to separate these out, but for now, since we're talking about schemas, we'll just worry about schemas. Let's create a new directory in our project called schemas. We'll click New Folder and call it schemas. There it is. And let's create a new file. Let's call that snack.schema.js. And save. And there we are. Perfect. Now we need to import our Mongoose library and define a variable called schema. So, const mongoose equals require mongoose. And then we will define a variable const schema, and that will be equal to mongoose dot schema. We will declare a variable called snack schema, and it will be equal to a newly instantiated schema object. Now we will define our schema in the constructor of the schema object. So let's add some curly braces here and enter. Okay, now let's figure out what we want to add as properties to the schema, which will ultimately be our collection. So if you're familiar with JSON format, we will start declaring properties. First we want snack, and that will be of type string, so no quotes, just capital string, and then comma, enter. And next we will do store, and let's do a Boolean, because we want to know where we can find this snack, if it's at a store or not. Requires prep, also a Boolean, so that will be true or false. Next, let's define a property called savory or sweet. Actually, let's make that two separate properties, savory, Boolean, so either true or false, and then same thing, a Boolean property called sweet. Now we want to just add an option in there to tell it to store timestamps in our documents. So, comma, another object, enter, timestamps, true. And there it is. Now this has all been prep for ultimately creating entries in our database. In order to do that, we need to export something useful from this file in order to import it into what will later be the implementation for our actual inserts, deletes, updates, and queries. So we will have another file specifically used for model operations. Let's enter a couple spaces down, and we need to pass this schema into a method to create a model that we will use to actually perform operations. So that method is called model, and it is part of the Mongoose library. So let's define another variable, snack model, and that is equal to mongoose.model, and that's the method, and we will name it snack. This is the actual name for our collection. When we start making inserts, it will actually pluralize and be called snacks. And we will pass in our schema as the second argument. Snack schema. There we go. Let's export this. And then we can import this file and utilize this object right here.